Absolutely, and if you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm. If the vaccination
Where is that in the Constitution?
If the vaccination is designed to prevent the spreading disease. If the vaccination is only to prevent a disease that you will get, for example, if there's a disease that will kill you, you have the right to refuse that, but you have no right to refuse to be vaccinated against a contagious disease. Public health, the police power of the Constitution, gives the state the power to compel that, and there are cases in the United States Supreme Court. Let me put it very clearly. You have no constitutional right to endanger the public and spread a disease, even if you disagree. You have no right not to be vaccinated. You have no right not to wear a mask. You have no right to open up your business.
Wait, can I stop you? No right not to be vaccinated? Meaning if they decide you have to be vaccinated, we have to be vaccinated?
Absolutely. And if you refuse to be vaccinated, the state has the power to literally take you to a doctor's office and plunge a needle into your arm. If the vaccination
Where is that in the Constitution?
If the vaccination is designed to prevent the spreading disease. If the vaccination is only to prevent a disease that you will get, for example, if there's a disease that will kill you, you have the right to refuse that, but you have no right to refuse to be vaccinated against a contagious disease. Public health, the police power of the Constitution, gives the state the power to compel that, and there are cases in the United States Supreme Court.
Or if you did not hear, then the man said, you, me, us, a time is coming that we will have no right to refuse to be vaccinated. Refusing to be vaccinated will amount to a criminal offense. And you and me.
Junior Mhlongo is being injected with a potentially life-saving treatment against the new coronavirus. He's volunteered for the first human trials of a vaccine to take place in Africa.
I feel a little bit scared, but I want to know what's going on with this vaccine so that I can tell my friends and others what's going on in this time.
The trial, being carried out by Britain's Oxford University alongside local partner University of the Witwatersrand, will consist of 2,000 volunteers, including some HIV-positive patients. They'll be monitored over the next 12 months to see how well the vaccine protects against COVID-19. Shabir Mahdi, a professor of vaccinology at Wits University, says the aim is to get the infection rate under 1, the level at which it starts spreading rapidly.
But once there's 60% of the population, especially the adult population, that becomes immune, we expect that effective reproductive rate to go to under 1, which basically means the virus will still be around, it will still circulate, but its chain of transmission has been interrupted, which is important.
It's the second trial of this vaccine outside the United Kingdom after Brazil, and a larger study is planned in the United States. South Africa has the highest rate of infections in Africa at over 100,000 with 2,000 deaths, and the World Health Organization has warned the region could become the next epicenter of the outbreak. Though tests of a new medical intervention on the continent always ring alarm bells because of a history of big pharmaceutical companies using Africans as guinea pigs, it's hoped that South Africa's involvement will ensure the continent will have access to an affordable vaccine and not be left at the back of the queue.
The announcement of the first coronavirus vaccine to be studied in Africa, and indeed in South Africa. So the South African Medical Research Council is a major funder of this program. What's very important as well is the issue around prevention, and we became very interested in funding work on vaccine design and development. And we looked at both local vaccine design and development as well as collaborating with international groups. And so this is the reason why we have collaborated with the Gates Foundation to fund this very important research.
Si je peux être provocateur, est-ce qu'on ne devrait pas faire cette étude en Afrique, où il n'y a pas de masque, pas de traitement, pas de réanimation, un peu comme c'est fait d'ailleurs pour certaines études dans le sida, où chez les prostituées, on essaye des choses parce qu'on sait elles sont hautement exposées et elles se protègent pas. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez?
Alors vous avez raison, et d'ailleurs on est en train de réfléchir en parallèle à une étude en Afrique justement pour faire ce même type d'approche avec le BCG, un placebo. Je pense qu'il y a un appel d'offres qui est sorti, il va sortir, et je pense.
Policy of the American government is called the Kissinger Report, which was produced in the mid-70s when Henry Kissinger was involved with the government, and it explicitly states, which to this day, it remains the official policy of the American government. It has not changed. It may not be implemented by Trump, but it remains the same. That the purpose of the foreign policy in Africa was to reduce the population. So to give aid to countries in Africa, not clean water and schooling and things like that, but contraception and abortion, in order to shrink the population of Africa, because they have great mineral resources there.
That sounds diabolical.
It is, yes.
That sounds like something conceived in the mind of Margaret Sanger.
Yeah, definitely. And so at the time, Kissinger and those involved with the Carter administration wanted to shrink the population, make sure that the Africans do not develop and do not use the resources for themselves, because we in the States, we need them. There is a concerted effort of foreign powers to control the population of Africa. Africa is a huge continent, could feed thousands more people, but the policies of the West, especially in Europe. For example, between 1990 and the year 2000, the United States, Canada, and Europe contributed about $6 billion in contraceptives, not to help the people, not to give clean water, clean food. That is
not to fight malaria, for example.
No, of course, perish the thought, never. Yeah. Let them die. That's the whole idea. So in our work in HLI, we denounced this reality to make the Africans aware that they have to defend themselves against the influence of foreign powers.
Anti-science, a whole movement called the anti-vaxxers, who refuse to acknowledge the evidence that vaccinations have eradicated smallpox, and who, by their prejudices, are actually endangering the very children they want to protect. And I totally reject this anti-scientific pessimism. I'm profoundly optimistic about the ability of new technology to serve as a liberator and to remake the world wondrously and benignly. Indeed, in countless respects, technology is already doing just that. Nanotechnology, I mentioned earlier, revolutionizing medicine by designing robots a fraction of the size of a red blood cell, capable of swimming through our bodies, dispensing medicine and attacking malignant cells like some Star Wars armada. Neural interface technology is producing a new generation of cochlear implants. I think of new tools that we acquired, but over which we, the human race, had the advantage, which we controlled. And that is not necessarily the case in the digital age. You may keep your secrets from your friends, from your parents, your children, your doctor, even your personal trainer. But it takes real effort to conceal your thoughts from Google. And if that is true today, in future, there may be nowhere to hide. Smart cities will pullulate with sensors, all joined together by the Internet of Things. Bollards communing invisibly with lampposts. But this technology could also be used to keep every citizen under round-the-clock surveillance. A future Alexa will pretend to take orders, but this Alexa will be watching you, clucking her.
This is one of the most important videos I've made, and one of the hardest. frankly, it's been a very difficult decision to make whether I even wanted to do it. Less than a week ago, I was notified by the Board of Medical Practice in Minnesota that I was being investigated because of public statements I had made. They listed 2 allegations. They said I've been spreading misinformation in regards to the completion of death certificates on a news program, which happened to take place on April 7th. And you could find that one. It was with Chris Berg if you wanted to. And the other allegation was that I provided reckless advice in my willingness to compare COVID-19 and the flu. When I got this letter, I was ticked. And quite frankly, I leaned into the comfort and wisdom of my family to help them, let them talk me off the cliff. But doggone it, if this can happen to me, my view is it could happen to anybody. I mean, I've been a family doc for 40 years. I work hard, I love my patients, I do house calls, I've been medical director, I've held staff positions in hospitals to help make things work better. I've been in the Senate for 4 years and I've learned a lot. I've never had anything like this happen. Shoot a mile. 5 years ago I was named the Minnesota Family Doctor of the Year in Minnesota. And I get this because a couple people complained and I don't get to know who those people are. I don't know if they're routinely in a political camp, if they're activists. I've gone online and looked at what it takes to complete a complaint that the Board of Medical Practice has to follow up on. It's a one-page deal. You can say what you want. You could be a huge donor for the other party, and I wouldn't get to know it. I wouldn't get to know if you live in my district. I don't get to know anything. I checked. So here I am. I've spent the better part of the last 6 days preparing a response. I understand how important the work is that the Board of Medical Practice does. I mean, physicians do screw up. 2 of the big areas where physicians mess up is inappropriate sexual behavior, inappropriate self-medicating, certainly with opiates. But this is an odd position for me to be in. And I am just stunned. But I should have seen it coming. Because I saw the threats on social media. I've seen them for the last 2 or 3 months. I've seen them come from physicians. I've seen them come from people in all walk of life. They didn't agree with me. They didn't like it that I was trying to provide some context for the flu, for COVID-19. We've had some 35,000, 40,000 cases of COVID-19 in Minnesota thus far. According to the Department of Health people, that might translate into 10 times that many. And if it does translate into 10 times that many, that's 350,000 cases. But in 2018, we had more than 500,000 Minnesotans with the flu. When I say that, am I recklessly giving you advice regarding COVID-19 and the flu? Dr. Anthony Fauci has come out and compared them all the time. Dr. Mike Osterholm has. In terms of the death certificates, on April 3rd, I got an email from the Department of Health that said very clearly that we should report COVID-19 on death certificates if it is assumed to have caused or contributed. Well, that's not how we do death certificates. The official ICD-10 coding for April 1st, 2020 through September 30th, 2020, during the time frame in question, says this: if the provider documents suspected, possible, probable, or inconclusive COVID-19, do not assign U07.1, which is COVID-19 disease. It says, assign a code explaining the reason for the encounter, such as fever, or a cough, or shortness of breath. That's what the official instructions say. So I get this on April 3rd. I end up inadvertently, sort of accidentally, running it up the flagpole with Chris Berg on April 7th. And what happens? The Department of Health, a few days later, comes out with a clarification. And then a few weeks later, they come out with another clarification. And I appreciate it. Fact of the matter is, I'm proud of the Department of Health in Minnesota for saying we are not going to list non-confirmed cases as deaths in Minnesota. We are going to put an asterisk by them, and we'll follow up on those later. But that's not what Pennsylvania was doing. That's why they had to subtract 200 patients from their COVID-19 death count. Colorado did the same thing. New York went the other direction. New York said, we're having more deaths in a certain period than we normally have, so those deaths must be COVID-19. We just didn't pick them up. So never mind the testing. We're adding 3,700 to our total, and oh, well, that does increase our total by 50%. So I'm in the position where I have to explain that I wasn't spreading misinformation. And I'm not being reckless when I talk about COVID-19 and the influenza both being single-stranded RNA viruses that are respiratory in nature with similar symptoms and can be spread through particulate matter and aerosol transmission. I've got an 8-page document that I put together for the Board of Medical Practice, and let me be clear. They do important work, and I'm going to fully cooperate with them. I also have some 70 pages of attachments, and in the attachments, I've got the Pennsylvania Department of Health slashing their numbers by 201. I've got the Department of Health in Illinois, where one of the directors says that just because we put COVID-19 down on the death certificate as cause of death, that doesn't mean the patient died of COVID-19. She said that. Dr. Fauci, when he talks about influenza, he was the lead article in this New England Journal article, and he said this: if one assumes that the number of asymptomatic or minimally symptomatic cases for COVID-19 is several times as high as the number of reported cases, the case fatality rate may be considerably less than 1%. This suggests that the overall clinical consequences of COVID-19 may ultimately be more akin to those of a severe seasonal influenza. That was Dr. Fauci. And, oh, by the way, one of the contributing authors was Dr. Robert Redfield, the head of the CDC. Dr. Osterholm is a well-regarded epidemiologist, and he was saying this in the middle of March. He said, the flu has become a pandemic more than once and has killed millions of people. It still exists today. Unfortunately, we now have on our hands something else, but it's caused by a coronavirus, which is acting very much like influenza. Folks, do I feel targeted? Yeah, I do. Do I know who my accusers are? No, I don't get to know. Could I be disciplined by the Board of Medical Practice? Well, sure I can. There's 2 allegations they're investigating. If I have been spreading misinformation, then what about Governor Walz and the Department of Health? Right around March 1st, we had a Department of Health memo that talked about the purpose of, if you will, some of the measures that would be taken to dampen, delay, and decrease the peak, to allow the accumulation of PPE and make sure that our hospital capacities weren't being overwhelmed. In that memo, they say what effective measures are: cover your mouth, don't go out if you have cough or fever, avoid touching your face, your eyes, or mouth, cover your mouth if you cough, wash your hands frequently, minimize outings, socially distance. But what did they say were not effective measures? They said wearing masks is not effective, taking antibiotics is not effective. A month later, Governor Walz comes out, talks about 74,000 Minnesotans dying. Later on, he went back to 29,000, and right around then, I put a different video out saying just the facts. And I said, I'm not buying 74,000 Minnesotans dying, I'm not buying 29,000. And then this one came out a month later, right around May 1st. This is a model that they're using. And it says on here, Minnesotans' model projects nearly 1,000 deaths a day in mid-July. Well, folks, that's next week. So far, we have less than, right around 1,500, of which all but 300 of them have occurred in people in long-term care facilities, in large part because the Department of Health participated in decisions that put people with active COVID-19 disease in the nursing homes. And I'm spreading misinformation. Of course I am. I don't know what to tell you. I just know this is wrong. We're in a bad place. My wife asked me the other day, Scott, why did 911 pull us together as Americans so much? And why is COVID-19 breaking us apart? I think physicians are part to blame. Scientists are. We've become so darn political. Physicians and scientists in the past are supposed to be above the fray. They're not. I have this odd set of hats I'm wearing because I'm the vice chair of the Health and Human Services Committee in the Senate, and I'm involved in policy discussions and involved in bills that deal with providing relief for COVID-19. And on the other hand, I've been a physician in the trenches for 35 years. So I try to connect the dots. I don't try to present myself to be something I'm not. I'm not an epidemiologist, but yes, I've taken epidemiology classes. I'm not an infectious disease doctor, but I take care of infectious disease every day. I just want to leave you with a couple of questions you could maybe ask yourself. Do we think it's okay for physicians to certify in death certificates that someone died of COVID-19, even if there was never a COVID-19 positive test obtained, even if there was never a COVID-19 test done, even if a COVID-19 test hadn't even been considered? And maybe the worst even if the family had no clue that the death certificate they received for their loved one was going to say COVID-19. What do we want to be doing there? In Minnesota, I think the Department of Health is taking care of business. Those are important questions. I'm sure there are naysayers out there that think that I'm getting exactly what I deserve. Fine. If it can happen to me, I think, frankly, that it could happen to anybody. It feels ugly. It feels like some of the people that disagree with me don't want to have a conversation. I've asked many of you to have conversations, and you've not been interested. So, reckless advice regarding comparisons between COVID-19 and the flu. Spreading misinformation because I cried foul when I received a memorandum from the Department of Health on April 3rd, which directed me to a CDC link, which says clearly that you could have a patient suffering from other medical problems, wheelchair bound, severe stroke within the preceding year or two, no COVID-19 test ever done or ordered, and when that patient dies of pneumonia, it's a COVID-19 death. I cried foul. And I'm grateful that the Department of Health a week later tried to clarify things, and a month later clarified it further. But I'll say it again. The official people who write the coding Bible in this country said, if the provider documents suspected, possible, probable, or inconclusive, do not.
Press vaccine documentary Vax, which I sponsored here. I was one of the main sponsors here in Atlanta, Georgia, and I can't thank so many people that were involved. Tia Savino did such a great job putting that together in the theaters and getting it out there and making it known what's going on with these vaccines and all these damaged children, especially against the Gardasil vaccine and all the garbage that's in that. So I mentioned Del Bigtree, and then of course you can't forget Dr. Andrew Wakefield and all that. Vax and the Informed Consent Action Network, ICANN, are credited with this victory. Okay, and there's a link here I will post later with this here. They demanded that relevant government documents proving that all federally approved vaccines have been tested for quality over the past 32 years, and there were none. Zero. Zilch. Nada. No proof showing that these were safe at all. They lost that battle. That means all these years that have been fought for, and everybody's been, all doctors like me and all these other docs, good docs that's sharing the good word about how dangerous these vaccines. Again, I will say it all the time. I'm not anti-vax. I'm anti-stupidity. I've been saying it for years. Okay? Dr. Buttar was saying it the other day. He's not anti-vax. He's anti-stupidity. Again, because you got to put on the thinking cap here, folks, of what's in this garbage. Finally, approve this stuff here. Here are the huge legal and practical implications in this victory for the American people. This means that United States Department of Health and Human Services and all vaccine makers have been deceiving the American people for over 30 years about the effectiveness and safety of vaccines. This may ultimately mean that continuing existence, at least in their current form, of 5 U.S. healthcare agencies is now in doubt. The CDC, the FDA, the IOM, the NIH, and the health part of DHHS itself. Gump, understand that Dr. Fauci and Gates Foundation have been trying to get Congress to pass a law that all American citizens must take their vaccines before being able to fly or return to work, which is insane. I told people last year in October when I was in Anaheim that that kind of stuff is looking to come and to get passed. Okay, that you're not going to be able to renew your driver's license if you don't get vaccinated. You're not going to be able to fly out of the country. You're not going to be able to update on your passport, your driver's license. All these things are going to come to fruition. And here we are, that they are quoted stating that this is what they wanted. The Gates Foundation, supported by George Soros, is being sued by a number of government and health foundations in various cities, is being allegedly responsible for hundreds and thousands of deaths in China and African nations. Now there is proof that at very least their vaccines have never been tested properly. Wow. I mean, what do you say? All you parents out there, all you followers out there know, all you fighters for the right, for the freedom of true science, that you've been out there, and all your friends and all your families been telling you you're out of your mind. All these MDs, shame on them all. Shame on them for stating how safe they are with no true science and making all of us look like we're freaking crazy and out of our damn mind. That you don't know what you're talking about. You're not a real doctor. You're not this, or you're just a person. You don't know better. You're a regular layman. You don't know about this stuff. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to understand that when you put detergents and you put petroleums and you put formaldehyde and you put things in there like pig urine or human DNA, species of human DNA into vaccines, which we know now is to be true more than ever before. Everybody was making you look like you're crazy or get away from that person. They're out of their mind. Are they really now? Now what? It's like you turn around, you got a mic in your hand, you're like, boom, you drop the mic. What do you got left to say? But it is just the beginning, isn't it? But what are they going to do now with all these laws that they did, you know, that they put into place now? And all these families that are uprooting and moving because of laws that have changed and everything that's going on out there. What are they going to do with that? What is going to come from this? Is this going to be a staple? I can tell you now, this is a big, big change and a notch. You know, thank God for Del Bigtree and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Dr. Wakefield for fighting and putting so many hard hours, thousands of hours into this to prove to everyone that these vaccines have not been safe. It's not proven. There are no double-blinded placebo testing on the first 135 vaccines that they give kids out there today to make you go to school and go to work and travel and all this business. All we've been asking for is true science. True science. Show me the double placebo test. Show me that this stuff that you're putting, all this toxic crap in these vaccines, in these babies, in adults, into children, into women, into men, and all this stuff traveling all over. Show us that it's safe. Where? And everybody's like, yo, you're out of your mind. If it was dangerous, they would never do that to us. Really? Now linking to autism. Big time autism here. Cancer, disease, arthritis, all these other things. And how about recently the reports now that are coming out in your flu shots over the past 10 and 15 years linked to HIV, that they put traces of HIV into these vaccines. You feel good about that? Your flu shot, do you? I've been telling everybody with the flu shot, what happens with most people that get the flu shot? This is no new news. Most people that get the flu shot get what? They get the flu. This isn't brain science. You know, this ain't brain surgery here. You know what I mean? You got 6 to 9 viruses in a shot with thousands in the air that you're hoping that it matches. It doesn't work. Years ago, you used to have to go to your regular MD to get a prescription or whatever, to see your doctor. Then it went that they started discounting it. Then you can go somewhere off the cuff and go get a flu shot. And then you go to your local CVS or whatever, or your Walgreens, and go get it for a couple of bucks. Now they give it away for free. Do you not see how they want to push it? They got to get it out there because they were losing ground. They knew it all along. They were losing ground. I don't know what it takes for people to see. If you got poison here and somebody says, oh, I just want you to take it, it's only trace, and it won't hurt you, it'll be okay. Would you just take it off the plate and do it? You would never do that. Why would you do that to your baby? Does it make sense for a hepatitis B shot on a newborn? Most of you know out there what hepatitis B is for. That is sharing needles, drug users, drug abusers, having sex. Are these babies doing any of this at the date of birth? They want to jack your son or your daughter up, this brand new healthy baby, with a hepatitis B shot? Really? Does that make any sense to anyone? And all the ingredients that are in it? I was mocked by tons of doctors and nurses on Twitter. I never go on Twitter, but I went and shared on Twitter anyway. This was a couple of months ago. They bitched and moaned so much what I had to say about mercury and aluminum being a neurotoxin and how it increases the brain and swells the brain. You should have heard the flack that I got from all these medical people telling me that they're not neurotoxins. I'm like, that ends conversation with me. That's like physiology 101. How don't you, as a medical doctor, with all your treatment, all your studying, all the money, the 220, 50,000 that you spend 10 years of education, don't know a simple thing that aluminum and mercury is a neurotoxin, that it will flame the brain? Why do you think they put polysorbate in there with that? So that it passes the blood-brain barrier and gets into your brain and inflames the brain. The brain per se cannot sweat outside the skull. When you run and you jog and your head is sweating, that's not your brain sweating. That's the skin and the muscle that surrounds it. So when you inflame that brain, you cramp it. When you cramp it, you get problems. This is where the head pain, you know, these kids talk about head pain, headaches, dizziness, fatigue. That's where it comes from. And we all know that aluminum in the gut and the mercury in the gut interferes with it's called SIGA, S-I-G-A, which is in the lining of the intestinal wall. How it erodes that and penetrates and gets in and pollutes the bloodstream. Now you're talking about between the the gut and the blood-brain barrier here, the connection. 80 to 85% of serotonin is developed in your gut, not your brain. Now you're fooling with that transmission to the frontal lobe. What is the frontal lobe responsible for? Mood and tude. Why do you think half these kids are like freaking zombies half the time? You take away the emotion. So you want to drug them up, and then you put them into school and you feed them school lunch that's loaded with all the garbage, with all the sugar and the refined carbs and all this crap, and 30 minutes later when they're getting the boom and the rush and then they get into class and then they drop, you wonder why they're not paying attention. So what are these school teachers, and God bless the teachers, nothing to say you're not working hard, because I'm a firm believer. I got patients, tons of patients that are teachers. They work hard. But some teachers will turn around and say, oh, they need Ritalin, they need Strattera, they need Adderall, they need this and that, because they're not concentrating. No, it's the diet and the gut. You're polluting it. And you're interfering with the brain transmission from the gut. That's what's happening there. This is what people need to open up. This is, for years, Del Bigtree and Andrew Wakefield have been screaming. Kennedy Jr. been screaming about how people need to open up the mind, pay attention to what's in a vaccine. You take this baby into your pediatrician by law. You have the right to look at that form before you sign and consent. You have the right to ask questions. Is this safe? Can you show me where the studies are? You have a right to ask these things. They work for you. You don't work for them. It's that simple. It's not that hard, people. It's not. You got to open up here and open up in here to say, I trust what I'm about to ask. I deserve a real good, honest answer. It's that simple. This isn't, again, I say it all the time, it's not brain surgery. It is so superficial. You just got to be strong. You got to believe in yourself, what you want for your children. That's what you just go with it. And I promise you, you'll start hearing them stutter. And one of the big things that they do is they like to get you into their office with the door open to get a nurse in there to be a witness. You know what? Thank you very much for the witness. I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm turning on my phone, and I'm going to record this conversation because that's my witness. That's what you do. They don't like it. You get up, you walk out. They can't arrest you for walking out. Not yet. And maybe never, according to this new rule, right? Take charge of yourself, and all you're asking is for proof. It's not that you hate vaccines. It's not that you're saying I'll never take one. There's place and time for certain things. There's no question. I just want to see that it's safe. Is that so much to ask for? It's that simple. Don't sweat it. And all you naysayers, beating up your relatives, you grandparents beating up your children, or you children beating up your parents, vice versa. Goes both ways, don't it? You got the grandparents that care about their grandchildren and trying to teach you, the adult of that baby, that these vaccines are dangerous, and you're telling them, oh, there's no such thing, and that they would never do that, and vice versa. This is about working together, about getting an understanding. There is no right or wrong. There's not somebody more right or wrong than the other. You just want an equilibrium to get an understanding that makes sense in a family. Isn't this, all that's going on right now, isn't this coming to fruition and to be true? Up here wants all of us down here to argue. They want you to not agree. They want it to be split and divided so they can keep doing what they're doing. And they're all like this, where all the strings connected to all of us little puppets beneath, and keep pushing it to get you to believe what they want. Not true. Just look up the ingredients, folks. It should end any conversation. It should end any conversation. Does any of it sound right? Aluminum, mercury, pig urine, human DNA fragmentation, human DNA from aborted baby fetal cells. You want that? Does that sound right into a newborn perfect child? Really? Does it make sense? Immunity, the best immunity comes from the mama, from breast milk. You ain't gonna beat it. They can't duplicate it. It's the way God has intended it, and it ain't ever gonna change. There isn't a powder, a juice, or anything on the market that's gonna beat mom's breast milk, ever. Place and time to do other things when things can't work, when moms can't produce, and other things. Okay, that's why I tell all parents, before you get pregnant, do a cleanse to the body. I put patients on my 21-day purification program. Get cleansed, get clean, clean that system. People say you are what you eat. I say you are what you can assimilate. If this gut in here, if this section here is not working, then the rest of your body's not getting the expression from the foods of what you're eating and what you're drinking. So I tell mothers that are getting ready to get pregnant, do a cleanse. Cleanse the kidneys, cleanse the liver, the small and large bowel. Get the junk out, get the garbage out. So now that when you get pregnant and the clean foods and things that you're eating and drinking, that's what you're giving this baby every day. So you work so hard to be so clean, so right, so tight, and everything else, but all these parents go out and inject. When I've been saying for years, these guys have been saying for years, all of you out there that have been telling your friends and family for years, it's not safe, it's not this. It's true. It's true. Right here, it's true.
As if a health crisis weren't enough, China is now exporting a biosecurity crisis. Mysterious seed packets have landed in mailboxes across the globe. Last Wednesday, we told you about China's seeds of doubt. You saw the story first on this show. Here's a quick recap. How would you react if you found a suspicious packet of seeds in your mailbox? These seeds of mystery could be from China, and they may contain harmful pathogens and insects. This warning has been issued by none other than the US government and their Department of Agriculture. Let me tell you why. At least 28 US states have reported these cases. Similar cases have been reported in Britain and in Canada. Hundreds of gardeners in the UK have received deliveries they did not pay for, they did not ask for. Well, in the last 5 days, the story has developed and the seeds from China have gone places. Tonight, I have three very interesting developments to share with you. First, these seeds have landed in 3 more countries that we know of. Second, India is on alert. And development number 3 has to do with the role of Taiwan. We'll take this one at a time. First of all, let me show you the map of China's seed terrorism. When we aired the story last Wednesday, the seeds had landed in the US, the UK and Canada. Now we have New Zealand and Japan among others on this list. In New Zealand, a woman received a parcel claiming to contain a toy. The shipment was from Zambia, at least that's what the postal address said. In Japan, a man received a bag of seed-like objects, each measuring about 2 millimeters. Was the bag from China? Well, the shipping label suggested it was. Let's talk about development number 2, what's happening in India. No seeds yet, thankfully, but India is on alert. Experts and the Ministry of Agriculture have been alerted about the possibility of seeds coming into India through e-commerce. Authorities have already warned people against China's seed terrorism. We spoke to a top seed expert from India and he told us that these mysterious seeds are a threat to global food security. How are these countries reacting to China's seeds of terror? Well, the US is investigating them. Experts have been able to identify 14 varieties so far, including seeds of flowering plants like hibiscus and lavender. The seeds are also being probed in the UK. The standing instruction across all the countries is the same. Do not use these seeds, do not plant them. That's what the recipients are being told. And development number 3, the role of Taiwan. What role does Taiwan play in China's seed terrorism? Well, last week, police in Canada had tweeted this photo of a seed packet. The tweet read, "If you receive an unsolicited shipment of foreign seeds in the mail from China or Taiwan, do not plant or dispose of them. Call the Canadian Food Inspection Agency." Several reports claim that the seeds sent to Canada came from Taiwan. Now, Taiwan's postal service has issued a clarification. It said the shipment was via Taiwan, not from Taiwan. And there's a big difference there. The seeds were sent on behalf of a private logistics company. Taiwan's postal service has slapped a fine of $3,500 against this particular company for sending prohibited items through mail. The logistics company, however, has reportedly refused to identify the sender. So who is sending these seeds? And the question is, why is China sending these seeds? Because most reports claim, and most assessments, including the American ones, say that these seeds may have come from China. Well, there are 2 theories that explain China's seed terrorism. First of all, these are seeds of an invasive species, an attempt by China to introduce pathogens or disease. And this is something that the expert from India also told us. He mentioned that China could be trying to sow species like the Japanese knotweed. They can destroy crops within months. Theory number 2 is something a lot of you can connect to. It involves fake reviews. American authorities claim that these packets are part of China's brushing scam. People are being sent these seeds by China's online seller. But whatever be the reason, you do not want to open these packets, that is the bottom line, or plant these seeds. You do not want to be a lab rabbit for China's nefarious plans. Here is how you can identify the mysterious seed parcels. Many of the packages will be marked with Chinese characters, or you will be able to spot the words China Post. Many of these parcels will claim to contain toys or rose stud earrings. This is a tactic to avoid biosecurity checks. Do not fall for these. Do not open mysterious parcels. If you end up receiving Chinese exported seeds, you need to alert the authorities immediately. And most importantly, do not, and I repeat, do not plant them. The Wuhan virus is overwhelming enough. We do not want China to be planting more trouble.